area of interest north of Australia could develop in the next few days. On today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for May 5th. Cyclone Hidayah is now a thing of the past, not even traceable at this juncture, but we are still code blue for two other areas of interest that have popped up now. One well to the north of Australia in the Indonesian island region near New Guinea, and one in the Western Pacific, which we're starting to put one eye on right now. Well, it's 27 days until Atlantic hurricane season, and the good news here is that it's still awfully quiet, although there's still severe weather going on in the US and some flash flooding concerns across Texas today. Also, a moderate risk day in effect tomorrow. We'll be producing updates on our channel. It's 10 days, short days now, until the hurricane season begins in the Eastern Pacific. And there's nothing expected here anytime soon, but at the moment it's a very quiet basin, just a few little thunderstorms in the low latitudes. So in the Western Pacific we've now got this area of interest, and I got to point out that almost half of the GEFS ensemble members have this developing into a tropical storm by day 7. So we're giving it a 20% chance right now, still some uncertainty around it, and a lot of uncertainty around this area of interest, north of Australia, of course a very unusual area that far north. We're giving it 20% right now. It may be conservative, there is already an area of interest there, and it is blowing up some decent convection. All it needs is to get a circulation going, and it could be a tropical cyclone. And in the southwest Indian Ocean, as you can see here, nothing left of Cyclone Hidayah. The cloud over the coastal region of Tanzania there is unrelated, but still producing some extra thunderstorms there after that storm rolled through, probably producing even more flooding. And in the South Pacific, there's nothing here active right now, looking very quiet indeed. Worn out basin, it's about to finish up here into the off season down there as it enters winter. So let's take a look at 91P then, which is still keeping the southern hemisphere alive. 85 kilometers from the Aru Islands of Indonesia, 282 from Pulau Dolac, 331 from Tual, a significant city to the northwest, 362 from the island of Yamdena, and 750 kilometers from Darwin, Australia. Still a low right now with estimated winds of around 35 miles per hour, a high pressure of around 1007 millibars to be expected in this area, high environmental pressures, and moving not much of a direction at the minute, but possibly towards the east. Here it is on satellite imagery right now, and you can see on the latest visible imagery there quite a lot of storms blowing up over the Aru Islands, and off to the east a significant band there affecting the southern part of New Guinea, with some significant rainfall by the looks of things. It's still got a long way to go if it's going to get a circulation sorted, but it is showing some primitive signs right now with all this convection blowing up near the centre, the would-be centre, with one or two areas of cloud tops reaching the -80s. Only small things right now, but still there could be a chance later on down the line, and if it doesn't do it in the next couple of days, it'll have another chance possibly next week as it moves into New Guinea, and then eventually what's left of it will come back out and then move towards the west. That's the premise of this potential cyclone that we've got next week moving west. There you can see the radar imagery just off the right hand side there. You can see briefly over New Guinea some pretty heavy radar returns. Microwave imagery isn't being very clear at the moment, but certainly signs of rotation, but I wouldn't say at this point a full circulation. Elsewhere, this is the Atlantic right now, the east coast, a few little rain showers there, but you can see all that activity further west over the central part of the US. A lot going on there, and of course we've got more severe weather on the way, a slight risk today and a moderate risk tomorrow. We'll be covering it live with a preview tonight and live coverage tomorrow. This is the Caribbean Sea, not much going on there, and in the eastern region of the Atlantic off Africa, things looking very quiet here as well. You may remember just not long ago a few little things off the coast, but gone. In the Eastern Pacific, this also had a few little storms, but they've gone really tiny now, not much going on there at all. And in the Western Pacific, a few little areas there, down there. Eventually, one of those things, probably the right-hand cluster of storms, could end up becoming that tropical cyclone that we're looking at in the medium to long range. Lots of thunderstorms blowing up over the Indochina region, especially over Vietnam and southern Thailand right now. Some significant rainfall I would expect, and flash flooding quite possible in those areas, and one lone storm there blowing up in central southern India. There's a wide view of the Australian region. Southwest Australia has a little cyclone moving off there as well, non-tropical, and southeastern Australia also has some rainfall going on there off New South Wales. Sea surface temperatures in the Eastern Pacific continue to increase, slow process, but it is getting there, up to 30 degrees in quite a few spots now. The Atlantic is also really getting emboldened now, with those temperatures in the Gulf beyond the loop current starting to get up to 26 degrees, and the Gulf Stream also looking good there beyond the coast of Florida now, up to 26 degrees. Caribbean looking great, main development region starting to get it up there as well. Western Pacific also looking good, with temperatures up to and above 30 degrees all around the Philippines now. South China Sea is a hot spot, although the northern coastline around Hong Kong and southern China has still got some work to do. The Bay of Bengal is piping hot with over 32 degrees Celsius waters right now, a little cool spot off the coast of Odisha, India. And in the southwest Indian Ocean, if anything else decides to form, which is quite unlikely at this point, there's still sea surface temperatures good enough for it. It's just whether the other conditions will be aligned, which usually the answer is no. Around Australia, those temperatures looking good as well. Through the Indonesian islands and the Banda Sea, temperatures up to 28 to 30 degrees Celsius, certainly good enough for a tropical cyclone if that happens. South Pacific also looking decent, but still starting a decline now, and we don't expect to see anything here, but who knows, stranger things have happened. Sea surface temperature anomalies look like this. The oranges are above average, the blues are below average, and the Atlantic is getting a little bit more above average now, with over 3 degree temperature anomalies in the main development region of the Atlantic. The cool area in the subtropics is shrinking, and in the Eastern Pacific there's a few areas above average in the main regions there, but cool on either side, sign of that potential La Nina. Western Pacific also showing generally above average temperatures, but it's most moderate near the Philippines to the east. Oceanic heat content still looks good for parts of the South Pacific if we got another system, but it's unlikely. North Pacific really starting to get some good values now. In the East Pac, particularly south of Mexico, and in the Western Pacific, the Philippine Sea from Guam through to the Philippine Islands, looking good, and one or two spots over 150 there now, looking very good. This is the Atlantic. Southwest of Jamaica is the hot spot right now for the oceanic heat content, but it's starting to get up there for the Atlantic as well. This is pretty normal, if not above average for the time of year. So let's check the computer models then, and first of all, what's the hubbub about this Western Pacific system? Well, this is the GFS forecast over the next 5 days. It doesn't get that far in the 5-day period, but certainly the parent model is projecting that the system does form. There it is on the right, near the end of that period. It ends up coming in from one of those very low latitude clusters of storms, turns northeasterly at first, and then wraps around, leaves the intertropical convergence zone. That's when they often turn more towards the west. So we've circled and centered that system there at the moment in the Australian region. You may have just seen it quickly darting off to the east, moving into New Guinea, and then eventually coming back, some kind of rotation there around the 10th of May, starting to appear again, moving slowly westwards. There it is again, tropical storm force winds. Whether it gets the circulation going and become a bona fide tropical cyclone or not is the big question mark. We're really not very confident about that. But rainfall certainly is something that we can be more confident about, and it will be a very wet system for this region. So the Aru Islands there could be getting up to around maybe 10 inches of rainfall there in the next 7 days, but the coast of Papua New Guinea could be getting, or rather New Guinea, the whole island, could be getting quite a lot more than that. There's 7 inches on Aru and possibly up to 12 along the east coast, that's 300 millimeters. But look at some of those rain amounts on the southwestern tip of New Guinea there, 23 inches, which is nearly 600 millimeters, and high amounts all along the southern coast of the very large island. Australia not really getting any of that rainfall except the very far northern extremities. So this is the moderate range day 5 to 10, and this Western Pacific gets its show on the road with this substantial typhoon that develops there by the end of day 10. We've got a category 4 on our hands there according to the GFS model. Still low confidence on the storm getting that strong, but the confidence is certainly increasing that we will see something forming in the Western Pacific fairly soon. Once it gets closer, those chances will be increasing. Latest GFS taking it safely away from the Philippines. Earlier runs had different though. This is the Australian region once again, and look around near the Aru Islands. There's that system again, moving westwards through the rest of those Banda Sea islands, and then on towards Timor, becoming a hurricane equivalent storm, a small one, and then moving on through towards the southwest. Watch again as this thing develops. Very unusual for this thing to happen here. It's not unheard of. There's been about 3 or 4 occasions where tropical storms have formed here. However, it will get much more rare if it does reach that hurricane equivalent status. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all our items as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. Guess what? The Still Waiting for Hone t-shirt is still there too, and it's still, the bet is on, well, whenever Hone forms I will be wearing a wiener costume and going live for a whole day. Now this is the Western Pacific Typhoon continuing northeastwards on the Scilly range there, day 10 to 16. It actually peaks during this period, day 11 I think it is there, peaking on the GFS with winds of 140 miles per hour and a pressure of 934 millibars, moving northeastwards, clearing the Japanese islands thankfully, and then moving off towards a very enormous extratropical period or size up there through the Kuril Islands and towards Kamchatka. Now this is once again the Australian region system. It holds its own for quite a while, passing those islands, passing by Sumba as well, and then moving westwards, moving over into the open Indian Ocean. Still very speculative as whether we'll see anything of this magnitude yet, but certainly something to keep an eye on as we get towards the longer range period. This is mid-May by now. It stays away from Australia during the whole period. It's a small cyclone, and so interest in Australia. Keep watching it, but it shouldn't be effect. Back on this day, it was May 5th, 2009 when we had another category 4 in the Western Pacific, and a tiny one at that. It was Typhoon Kujira. Peaked late on the 4th, it was just about to start weakening on the 5th. We also had Tropical Storm Chan Hom, which was much larger there in the South China Sea on that picture. It's little and large there, and that eventually got quite a bit stronger as it approached western Luzon. Always difficult systems that approach the Philippines from the west because they're much more used to storms on the east side, but they can happen there, especially early in the year. So let's take a look at what names we've got coming up then in the Atlantic. The first name this year is Alberto. In the Eastern Pacific it's Aletta, and in the Central Pacific it is still Hone. We've been waiting nearly 5 years for it. We're at 16 storms so far for the year, and we're still code blue for 91P, which was that Australian system. Ewinia is next in the Western Pacific, Rimal in the North Indian Ocean, and in the Southern Hemisphere the next Australian name is Robin. In the Southwest Indian Ocean we shouldn't get any more, but it would be Iali, and in the South Pacific we really shouldn't get any more there, but the next name is Pitta. That's all from today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll see you again tomorrow.